The weekend is here, and we need to make a push to solidify that lead or make a huge comeback. We'll talk about that and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Onay. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Matthew-Onay. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, please leave us a 5-star rating or review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you may listen. It truly helps out the show. If you want a little bit more than what we offer on this 30-minute podcast, check us out on Subtext. Become a member of the Diamond Club. You get a free 2 weeks when you join. You'll get waiver wire rankings, prospect call-ups, and you'll even be able to ask us questions. So check us out on there. Again, the link is in the description below. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right way to make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. And all right, we got a good episode for you today, guys. Honestly, I'm pretty pumped. We got some good hitters, and on top of that, we got some great arms. And I'm super excited to talk about it because I don't just have you covered for the weekend. We're also going to start some prep for next week. So we're going to have like 2 or 3 relevant pitchers for the week. And then I'm going to have about 3 pitchers for 2 starts for next week that you can scoop up now. I know I didn't do anybody a service on Monday if you didn't have same day ads. So I'm doing it now on the Friday show. So you can go in, prep, save these ads for the last day of the week and scoop them up and say, see you later. So let's get started here. Let's talk about the guy who just, got caught with some steroids and had a nice 82-game suspension. And that's Noel V. Marte. Noel V. Marte is an interesting case. I actually am a fan of him. I just hope that what he did is, still attainable without the steroids. I like the kid a lot, and we'll see why. I'll tell you why in a second, right? So in the minors where I'm like pretty excited to say, hey, like this kid is pretty legit, right? In 2022, he had 448 at bats, 74 runs, 23 doubles, 19 home runs, 68 ribs, 23 stolen bases, walked 59 times to 107 strikeouts, batted at 279, had an OBP of 371, a slug of 458, and an OPS of 829. He then followed it up in 2023 with just 11 home runs through 348 at bats, still a decent pace, and had a nice whopping 18 stolen bases in that time and still batted 279. He's actually been a nice batting average contributor his whole minor league career. His lowest batting average season through the minors was 370. Was a 273. His highest was a 316 before getting the call. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what he's going to do in the bigs, and we'll see where it comes here. So far in the minors this year, he hasn't looked as strong batting a 151, but I mean, hey, the man hasn't played baseball in 82 games, so in quite some time. So I think we're going to see a slower start, but he's somebody I want to stash, if not add, right now, just based off of the fact that what his prospect pedigree was coming into the season, and just see if he can kind of turn it around. Now, obviously, you don't want to clog your bench spots, but he may get the call and, finally get that confidence he needs or that kind of mojo back where he can kind of look like his minor league self, or he can completely flop because it was really all just steroid based. We shall see. I don't want to throw slander or, get a defamation lawsuit or anything like that. But Marte looks like somebody that I think is going to benefit from being on the Reds and coming up and being an instant contributor. At least that's what I hope. Again, no guarantee. But anyway, I would add Noel V. Marte essentially now, as you're listening to this, 25% owned, still out there in 75% of leagues. So, if you're in a good league where a lot of people are on it, he's either been stashed for a bit or he was added probably today. Well, today when I'm recording, which is Thursday on the 27th, he's probably added since he's playing today. But ultimately, add Noel V. Marte. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Mr. Zach Neto heating up again. He's such a flippy floppy kind of guy. Sometimes he's hot, sometimes he's cold, sometimes he's this, sometimes he's that. spring looked nice, and just, it just utter disappointment on my end because I saw the fantasy upside and it just didn't pan out. But right now he's hot, and I'm gonna essentially I'm gonna ride that. Last week over the last 2 weeks, 7 runs, 2 bombs, 9 ribs, 2 stolen bases, batting 289. He's continuing this week with 3 runs, no bombs yet, 4 ribs, a stolen base, batting 286. So he's contributing batting average. And my main role with, waiver wires and, picking up guys is, contribution in the batting average category is, a big plus for me. Somebody and with that kind of draws me to kind of incentivize me to add them essentially. So with Zach Neto, I want to add him based off one, just his batting average. Two, he chipped in a stolen base, which, that's awesome. And there still is some power upside where he could hit one over the fence this weekend and kind of drive one home for you. And if you've lost anybody or you're struggling with all these injuries, Zach Neto can fit in and you can kind of just stream him until he cools off. I don't care. Drop him at the end of the weekend. But while he's riding the heater, I'm going to add him and I'm going to take advantage of it. Again, I didn't say his name. He's where he's from. So it's Zach Neto, Los Angeles Angels. He's 27% owned. And I feel you need to add him almost not everywhere, but add him if you need a streamer. All right. I'm going to talk about a catcher here. And this is going to be a good one. Mr. Bo Naylor. Bo Naylor is another guy that I was kind of high on coming into the season. I was hoping that he would kind of, do things that we kind of saw him do in the minors and kind of see it translate, which last year we kind of did, but kind of didn't because he still posted 237 batting average. But right now he's hot, and I'm going to take that. And the Cleveland Guardians team is just rolling right now, and I want to get a piece of it. He has 5 runs, a bomb, 4 ribs, batting 429 over the week so far, and was batting between the last 2 weeks 300. So it seems like he's starting to heat up. And what I like about that is, we can catch this right at the start, right before the tsunami pretty much makes land, and possibly push you over the edge this weekend and maybe ride it into next weekend. How long do I really see this panning out and him actually staying this hot? TBD. I wouldn't hold my breath ultimately, but I'm all about riding this wave. He had a decent prospect pedigree. What he did in the minors before getting called up last year was pretty enticing. He had 217 at bats. He had 45 runs. He had 12 doubles, a triple, 13 bombs, 48 ribs, 2 stolen bases, walked 49 times to 52 strikeouts, which you got to love to see. 253 batting average, a 393 OBP, a slug of 498, and an OPS of 890 in the minors last year before getting the call. So Bo Naylor, honestly, I think was just that kind of got me excited. He has a 21 home run season in 22 through 415 at bats. He has a 10 home run season in 313 at bats. Like, he has power, and if he can start cranking, there is an upside play to him right now. Obviously, we've seen in his minor league career where he had, plate discipline and such, and that makes things a lot better for us. That there could be that upside, and him batting 400 obviously isn't sustainable, but if that falls down to a 260, 270 for the next couple of weeks and he's able to crank in some home runs for him, I'm willing to stream him at the position in catcher, 2 catcher leagues, single catcher leagues. Like if you're just, streaming each week and out, ultimately Bo Naylor is somebody that you should strongly consider just riding that wave. Cause I mean, it's not like catcher has been super overwhelming. Like obviously the top end guys are performing, but the rest has just kind of been like middling and just like up and down. And, I tend to I don't carry 2 catchers, but I tend to not care about my catcher position, especially in single catcher leagues, or at least my second catcher position in 2 catcher leagues where I'll stream the position. And I don't really care. I'll just like, okay, this guy's starting to heat up or this guy is on a heater. Okay, let's pick him up and ride it out. And when they start cooling off, boom, drop them, pick up the next guy that's starting on a heater. I don't like it just doesn't matter at the end of the day. So when it comes to Bo Naylor, just treat it the same. Add Bo Naylor now. Bo Naylor is, again, I don't know if I said it, 19% owned. So he's out there in 81% of leagues. Again, Bo Naylor of the Cleveland Guardians. And up next, we have guys like Cole Keith, Byron Buxton, a closer, a pitcher that can help you out this weekend, and a whole bunch of 2-start pitchers. So we'll be right back after this. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. With summer travels heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn about more. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities, plus with hotels, beds and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on booking.com. You might just find yourself a perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. Whenever I need a book a night in Philly so I can safely enjoy the game, I use booking.com for everything. From booking hotels that look over the stadium to family friendly resorts, booking.com has so many choices across the US for summer travels this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of this US city, even your rivals. Book today at booking.com on the sites or the booking.com app. I love sports and I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But the playoffs are winding down. We have fewer games and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets you keep the sport going whenever you want. All I have to do is open the app, dream up a bet anytime, and I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking you up with all customers with a boost or bonus and daily. That's right. There's something in it for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to fanduel.com/locked on and place your bet today, whether it's a parlay, even live in the game, same game parlay. Bet on your rivals, bet on, money lines, over unders for runs, such. Whatever you feel is going to do it, even UFC for all that matters. Check it out. FanDuel's got it all. So again, go to fanduel.com/locked on and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the MLB. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Rely on our dynamic content this season. Get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. Subscribe now and elevate that fantasy baseball experience to new levels. And new customers or new fans or new everydayers get a free 2 weeks upon new membership. So check us out. Link is in the description below. I promise you won't regret it. But let's move on. Let's get back into some baseball. And like I promised right before the break, we have Colt Keith. Colt Keith, I love him, man. He was a prospect that, I was pretty interested into, start the season as well. Not like, oh my God, this kid is going to be awesome, like to a level where Noel V Marte. But Keith was somebody that, I saw a power upside, saw a Detroit lineup that could possibly be dangerous if he hits. And, the kid does have a high grit power grade, does kind of hit for average and such. And I like Colt Keith for those reasons. And I want to see what he can do now. And right now he's on a heater. Second and third base eligibility, 12% owned. Again, Detroit Tigers. This past week, 3 runs, a bomb, 3 ribs, a stolen base, and batting 368. Over the last 2 weeks, 4 runs, 2 bombs, four ribs, a stolen base, batting 357. The batting average is continuing. The power, I think there's still yet to come. I think there's a whole lot more contribution that he can do in this time. We pull up what he did in the minors. You look at, last year in the minors, 27 home run season through 507 at bats. Like, and he batted 306, I might add. He just does good things. He is a good contributor, and he's somebody that once he gets going, I think could be a serious contributor for possibly the rest of the season. It's just a matter of when. What is that going to look like? It may take some time because he is young, but I am willing to roll him out there while he's on a heater. And then, don't care if he kind of decides to teeter off. I probably will drop him and then pick him back up again because he will be overlooked again. But right now, when he's 12% owned, Colt Keith of the Detroit Tigers needs to be added just to be streamed. You could be one of those Ozzy Albies owners that are just like a little upset that he's not performing up to par, which we all know he's going to bounce back. I'm obviously not saying to drop Albies, but you could ride out the hot Colt Keith in second base and kind of supplement that non-production until Albies gets going, or make up for an Arenado not playing well and put him at third. He has that positional eligibility. So Colt Keith, I think, is the perfect person right now to go out and add and contribute more than those two guys that we drafted pretty high with high expectations and that aren't living to it. And let's just manufacture wins going into the weekend. But let's move on. Let's talk about Byron Buxton, another guy, 45% owned, Minnesota Twin. He is on a heater right now as well. You know, this last week, 5 runs, 2 bombs, 5 ribs, batting 368. I like it. Last week he batted over the last 2 weeks, he's batting 342. You know, I think he's somebody that, well, we all think that, Byron Buxton can get going and be a contributor day in and day out. Byron Buxton, we all know if he could just play a full season, there is upside to be had. You know, he has it all, in my opinion, when it comes to that. He just can't stay healthy. He's just made of plexiglass, or better yet, just a feather floating by in the breeze. Because the second something goes, he breaks. So Byron Buxton, I'm willing to ride with him as long as he's healthy and performing. Because Byron Buxton is somebody that's like kind of like a guilty pleasure at the end of the day. Because you do want to see this kid perform. You do want to see him do his thing. And I say kid, but he's only like 3 years younger than me. So, it is what it is. But Byron Buxton, all the upside in the world. I mean, you look at what he did in 2022 through 340 at bats. He had 28 home runs. That's just ridiculous. Yes, his batting average was in the absolute toilet. Who cares? 28 home runs in that short period of time. Like, let him turn on the heater. Let him start making contact with that ball. We might get some magic. So pick him up now. He's somebody I'm not going to be as careless to drop. I'm going to just pretty much hold up until the All-Star break and to see if he could just stay healthy. And then, I'll just drop him once he gets hurt. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when with him. So once Byron Buxton goes down to injury, then we could just drop him and move on and forget about it. But Byron Buxton, I feel, needs to be added again. Let's do that now. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Aroldis Chapman. Bender goes down, and now Aroldis Chapman steps up to the closer position for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and is in a position to contribute in saves week in week out. Now, Aroldis Chapman is nowhere near who he was with the Yankees or any of his past greatness. We are far past that. We have crossed that threshold of old man Sanders, and yeah. But I will say this: he still has some elite stuff. The K per nine is fantastic. 28 innings pitched, 47 Ks. That is something you always want to see. That's usually what's the difference in how I rank my closers, right? Because all these guys can get saves and perform in high leverage situations, but ultimately, if they're not getting the K per nine, contributing in strikeouts at a high rate in comparison to innings pitched, then they're not as valuable, right? They're only going to really there to get you saves, which obviously saves are the whole point of drafting the reliefs, but the bonuses in Ks that could put you over the edge by the end of the week is something that you want out of a closer. And Aroldis Chapman does that with 47 Ks through 28 innings. So, I'm definitely saying add the kid. Pittsburgh, if they're going to win games, they're going to be close because they're not performing up to expectation right now. So Aroldis Chapman is going to step into that role and, have the opportunity. And I'm willing to add him everywhere. He's 41% owned. And I think Pittsburgh is going to need him every step of the way. So Aroldis Chapman is a must add right here, right now. But before we move on and we do get into the rest of our pitchers and start talking 2-star pitchers, we'll be, I have, I will want to talk about all these guys right after this. I love going to baseball games with my family and friends. There's nothing like drinking a beer, eating a dog at a ball game. So when I go to a game, I use a Game Time app. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for the MLB, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down as they get closer to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in-one prices, views from your seats, the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Priority, right? Last-minute ticket deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute games, the last-minute tickets to a sporting event, concerts, comedy, theater, so much more. They even have flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game. They even run zone deals, right? So you save even more when you let Game Time choose the seat for you. All-in-one pricing too, which is so annoying, right? You get to the ticket and on other apps, and it's like, oh, wait, all these fees? I thought I was only paying this. With Game Time, tickets are the all-in-one price right from the jump. There's no surprises at the end. I love it. And this is the best part, right? When you're buying tickets, you get a panoramic view of your seat right from where you're going to sit right before you buy it. So if there's a pole right in front of your seat, so you're not disappointed when you get there. So lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time tickets coverage your or purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in ticket industry. Take the guesswork out of buying the MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the app today. Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, and we are back here, and we got some pitchers for you. And we are going to be talking Cal Quantrill. Now, not the sexiest name in all of fantasy baseball, but there's a good matchup to be had, and he's 23% owned. And even though he plays for the Rockies, he has a great matchup against the White Sox at the White Sox, so he's not at home in that dangerous park where he can give up runs for days. So, White Sox have not been impressive whatsoever. Yes, Luis Robert can hit the ball off the cover, and you know, we're gonna be able to kind of get things in with Cal Quantrill. Yes, he's also not a strikeout machine, so he's not gonna really contribute in the strikeout category, but he may be able to suppress the run enough to be valuable going into the weekend and making your day just a little bit better. You know, I will say, look, the kid does not have a velocity fastball. Like, it's just not a thing. 93 miles per hour. He does give up somewhat of hard contact, but again, he's not playing a course. He doesn't get guys to chase, whiff, or strike out, and he kind of walks guys pretty often too. Hence why he has a 1.3 whip on the season. But he doesn't allow guys to barrel. He doesn't allow hard hits, and he creates a lot of ground balls. Okay, his off-speed pitches get a lot of movement. His breaking balls get a lot of movement, and his fastball is his fastball. It's not something that I'm really just gonna care about, because not only that, he really doesn't even throw it. This year alone, he hasn't even thrown it at all. He's thrown a changeup, a curveball, a cutter, a split finger, and a sinker. And the sinker's been like his pitch this year. Yes, it's been getting hit, but his split finger has been making that up for too, with a 1.58 batting average against it. He's been successful with that and the curveball and the changeup. The two pitches that have been getting hit are the sinker and cutter. And if he's not throwing those, I feel a lot better about it. So with Cal Quantrill going up against the White Sox this weekend, I'm definitely going to add him and kind of stream him this week and just kind of hope for the best in terms of ERA. Hopefully he doesn't walk too many guys and kind of blow up your whip. But I think Cal Quantrill is in for a good start this week. All right. I have two start pitchers, and then I have a guy for same day ads at the end. So if you need somebody tomorrow and you're in a same day ad league, stick around to the end and I'll get you him. All right. So let's talk about somebody I've been talking about stashing for weeks, and quite honestly, you need to get him now. This is pause the podcast moment. Ad now. And that's Gavin Williams of the Cleveland Guardians. Okay, 2 starts next week, and the 2 starts are juicy. Okay, Chicago White Sox and San Francisco. I'm all about these 2 starts. Great week to bring back the Gavin Williams of the world. I'm so excited. Gavin Williams last year just really impressed me because he did not start off hot. He truly started off like duty. I was like, oh, this kid's going to be a bust. But I held in there, and it paid off. Gavin Williams finished last year with a 3.29 ERA after starting with like a 5.25 ERA. Through 82 innings pitched, he had 81 strikeouts, and he had a whip of 1.256. Now, the whip is a little high, but from a young prospect first year in the bigs, you expect the high whip. What you don't expect is to have a really nice ERA like that, and I was really impressed. The kid has a lot of good pitches. He throws gas, and in the minors, he was fantastic. At 23, before he got the call, with 60 innings pitched, he had a 2.39 ERA, 81 strikeouts, and a .978 whip. Okay, Gavin Williams needs to be added now to the Cleveland Guardians. He is only 52% owned. I understand he's owned in more than half, but in those 48% of leagues, he should be 100% owned. This kid could be one of those guys that we're picking up like Tarek Skubal this year that can be the guy that takes you to fantasy championships. So Gavin Williams, you need to add immediately. Pause the podcast and do it now. All right, let's talk about the Allegretti, the Spencer Allegretti. Arrighetti, I apologize. I might as well start calling him the Yeti. He had a great start the other night. and I was really impressed. He fan 10 and just really looked good. I actually watched the episode. I mean, not the episode, the the game. Whoopsie daisy. His last outing versus, I mean, obviously it was the Rockies, but he still lit them up. Went 7 deep, got the win, 10 Ks, no earned runs, and a .43 whip. He has some good matchups next week too, I might add. He's going up against Toronto and Minnesota. Now, yes, we talked about Buxton being on a heater. We all know what Royce Lewis is doing, but Arrighetti, the Yeti, I think is going to go out there and be just fine. He has gotten hit around by good teams like Detroit for some reason and the White Sox. So actually, he's been hit around by bad teams. Let me take that back. But then San Francisco didn't give up much. St. Louis didn't give up much. Seattle didn't give up any. And these are all coming with 8 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts. Oakland, 7 strikeouts. He has been a little bit up and down, but he's also a first-year pitcher. Arrighetti has some nice stuff. Okay, I'm just excited to see how he continues. I think that you go and you look at his baseball savant page, it's not as impressive, but there is something here. He's right on the cusp of not giving up good average exit velocity. He gets the whiffs, he gets the Ks. He doesn't allow guys to barrel. Yes, I would just like a little bit less hard contact and for him to create a little bit more ground balls. And right now they're saying even his fastballs and breaking balls are a little bit on the flat side, which I think that's going to change too. If you're able to fan 10, something's going to turn around. These advanced stats are going to swing soon. So I think let's get him while he's on the upswing, and maybe this last start against the Rockies are a nice little stepping stone for Arrighetti to have some serious success. So with the 2 starts next week, I'm rolling him out there. Probably not as strong as Gavin Williams, but I'm definitely adding him, especially with him being 7% owned. You really need to take advantage of that. All right, let's move on here and talk about Landon Nax. Right, that's how we're saying this. Landon Nax. He's playing tomorrow. So yep. And he's been successful since he's been up. And it's been interesting to watch him play. I really didn't expect much from him. And you know what? It's nice to see. Went out against the Angels, 2 Ks, no earned runs. Went against Cincinnati, 5 Ks, a 1.93 ERA. Went against Arizona, 2 Ks, a 1.8 ERA. And Washington, who has been good of late, 5 Ks, 3 ERA, got the win. And Washington again, 4 Ks, a 3.6 ERA. He has been good, he has been serviceable, and he has been performing. So in those same day ad leagues, I'm adding him and I'm starting him tomorrow or today for you guys. Landon Nax is somebody that, if you go out there and you're looking to start him, then you're probably down in certain categories and you need a little boost, whether it's quality starts, whether it's, Ks or ERA boost. Nax could probably get you there. It's not a bad start at all. So go out there, add Nax now. He is 17% owned, and quite honestly, has another good start or two, and that ownership percentage is going to start ticking up pretty quickly. So I would go out there, add Nax now, and just, set yourself up for success. But all right, guys, thank you so much for being with me today. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. It's going to be a good one, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace out.